Version 2 is a plain upgrade. We've got the little mount here too. This is another one too, where we have a little manual smiles, and we tick whatever particular traits we want together to have a look at things which are important to us. Like if we have a look at the, just getting back to that disgusting Camera, this car here has got some CO present at this particular point in time. If I go here and delete a number of these items, I'll just take this one out of here and delete that and turn it into corrected CO. Right. And I'll turn most of them off. So we're giving real CO and corrected CO. At all instances, these two lines should basically be the same. There should be no variance. When the real CO exceeds the corrected CO, what it means is that what corrected CO is the amount of CO we're expecting to see, knowing full well that we have measured the carbon dioxide and counted the carbon atoms, and there's only so many carbon atoms left over to form CO. And that's the corrected CO. When the real CO exceeds the corrected CO, it means that there is more carbon monoxide present in the exhaust stream than could possibly be put in there by the fuel. So where did it come from? And the answer is burning of oil. Right? So if we look in this credit card that failed the engine mechanical test, this one here, we're looking here. You can see that the two lines have diverged completely. If you're seeing that in your exhaust gas stream, you have oil burning going on. 3.3 and CO is 3.23. Now, if the real CO is higher than the corrected CO, you are burning oil. If the real CO is less than the corrected CO, you have an exhaust leak. In each case, the machine will set the flag for things that it suspects. This is only a recent discovery again. This is that we're passing this information on to you. It's constantly looking at cars that have bad engines. So have a look at cars that have good engines, that are known good cars, and then have a look at some of the shockers that are coming. And yeah, and you start building up the information. If you would like, and I certainly would appreciate it, we've just spent an enormous amount of money on our new computer system. So much so that we're actually hosting our website now at the workshop because we couldn't put in the information. We don't feel like telling our competitors too much about what we're doing, but we certainly would like to share the information with you. And like the RATN network, it is of interest to me that all of you send in files of interesting cars. One of the, I'm here teaching you, but I learn just as much from you guys as I do, I get out and teaching, because there's no one in the world that I can see every 40 vehicle in the world or Australia. I mean, it's as difficult I've seen more in my workshop. So the input given by you guys into the system will benefit other people in the system as well. There are over 100 of you that have a machine out here in Australia at the moment that are using the machine. All different stopping spaces. There's an L spring, there's all over Australia. And everybody has different sets of problems. The guy in cans has lots of humidity problems. You might make a big flame. You go have a laugh? What was that? New meeting? And the thing is that there is a network of people that are developing now, even amongst yourself. And the fact is that you can each when you log in, or you will be able to log in using your serial number, the serial number that you've been allocated, the dongle number on the back of the dongle, to log into the system. And even through that, you can chat to each other. So you can take one on note and forum up each. You can't even have a forum with them. People can have a look at it and see if they can share the data. So that's one of the things that we're trying to get up and running now with this generic software. We have no support from anybody else, so we end up having to do it ourselves. But the simple fact of the matter is that all of you have got these things in machines. It doesn't matter whether it's the maxi bench or the super bench, they've all passed the highest bar 97 ratings in the world for accuracy, and they don't drift very often. So, you know, I believe most of the things in the machine is always telling you true and accurate. And therefore, you can always make an informed decision based on accurate measurements. If the results disagree with your theory, believe the results and invent your theory. Okay, well, after we're ready, we're up to lunch. About 5 minutes to go for lunch, so we'll do the engine line up straight after lunch. That's about the end of the theory for today. We'll spend some time on the electronic side after we get this now after lunch. Is there any questions on the way the machine reacts to the answer ratio and the requirements of the engine?
I've got a question on data storage.
Yes.
Well, I was talking to you once before about it. I'll obviously use my step when I want to export. I want to look at the.
You want to export or save?
I can save or what, but I want to bring the software out of there on my home computer.
Oh, okay. You have to export.
Export, yeah.
It's okay.
I don't get it to do it.
You have to have some data to export first of all.
Yeah, but
Okay, so view graphs and we have data. I've only got one piece of data,
yeah.
right? So there's only one there to, one which is a buffer. So there's nothing down here. So you can't look at that, but that's already there. So we get over here and we go to data storage and we go to export. You give it a name, right? The name, this one here, box 7, relates to Ron's car, your car, is it? Box 7, and there's Faust, John Faust 1 and John Faust 6. The worst of all time.
Mark, you got yours?
What a fascinating creature this is. How come we see there more people in the cars? They don't leave their cars on the street, not going to bring them in or anything else?
Couple it, go.
You're in your life? Yeah, you probably won't go that up. Yeah, you better get those coke out of there. I think they're going to explode.
David put them in there.
Not a pulse generator. That powers up, that's the ignition module, it takes place on the module. We had one coming the other day, stayed in by the NRMA, and they said the coil pack was full. So we came in, we lifted the coil pack up, and we measured it. Well, first of all, we measured it, there was no spark coming out of the plug. simple one. Put that on there, power it up the coil, and it's worth 30,000 to 40,000 volts. If you bought a coil pack for it, we would have been down the drain, because the motor would have gone down. Power up DFI motor, ready to go. You've got to pull that into it, it's got to be right. Yeah, that's fine. This is what I mean about when I say to you that the customer comes in. Yeah, when the customer comes in and we have this machine at the front door and they get the check, that's all it is. Come in, this is, only takes a few seconds. Doesn't take very long. Now, what I'll do is I'll go back to the start piece again. Okay, you ready to go? I'm ready. Okay. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
It's still sucking. The door system still has gas in it. It's amazing, isn't it? It's very, very slow. Have you had enough of the heat, by the way? No. They had so many revisions in Newcastle. The Japanese make something, you send it out there and everyone has a good time. Australians make something, send it out, we have 55 feet what we call, you know. So the latest one, what was it? The frame for it? No one with the 80s classic, it drops valves. It drops valves in the engine, it's drive along and all of a sudden. Okay, fire was ready. Apparently they revised the design of the collar, spring brakes, the collar lets go, and the valve falls in the engine. Primo. You might have to pull that down, it's pretty clean though. So I just let off one. I just got to rub up. What's this guy? Tell the difference. That's right. Again, you can see that this car is starting to come good, but it's taken so long. There's an optimal torque angular ratio now. It's taken so long because we've astonishingly poor design of the engine. And because it's a cast iron head, to get up to the an acceptable emission level. You might just have to lift that up back when you do the snap test. Because Eddie, you can hold up hang on, those are coming here. Perfect. Yep. Easy. All right. Okay, so it's finally reached optimum. If I wanted just to stop that and have a look at just how bad that is. Going back to you. Let's go into combustion efficiency here. 78%, 89%, 94% of the things you can get to. And again, we've got this perfect little counter, which getting cold is at 97% only a few seconds after starting. This is intrinsically, as I said before, a lot of the time when you go, well, that's what they're going to do. This is the real political potato because the car's not going to pass. You haven't said nothing yet. Give it a rip. Just out of here first of all, thanks. Nice good snap. Better? Here we go, look at this. Whoa! What a winner! Now let's just pause that. Of course, we'll have one here point on. First point is here, stumble, stumble. See the stumble? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe for mapping in the engine. Well, the Commodore TPS is just potentiometer. It's not an on-off switch at any stage, or hasn't got an idle switch. At this particular point here, where we've got a touch that it works, 3,721 parts per million of raw unburnt fuel going up to that. And this car is not in bad condition. Dave doesn't use this car, it's not neglected, it gets good servicing. The car is just an absolute disgrace. I'm sorry, there's no other way to describe it, it's terrible. We will make good living out of these cars we use the car, but as far as being clean or functional vehicles, they're not. I believe General Motors bring out new alloy V8 from America next year, which is an extremely clean engine, beautifully clean. The multi-million dollar question is, why do we have to develop this shit when the technology exists in General Motors and they're beautiful? And they have beautiful General Motors V6s we don't have them here. Just get it straight. Well, who's been overseas to a third world country? Anyone went to a third world country? Well, my wife comes from the Philippines, and here I had never been there. When I went over to the Philippines, apart from the fact I couldn't see more than 200 metres in front of me, when I had a look at some of the cars over there, it's this brand new Drago with a 3-1-6 engine in it. There's no, well, that's true, there's no emission laws over there, so they just get any amount of shit. And of course they drive over Australia, so I'll take this, so here we go. I'll get, just have a look at something reading, but you want to know what combustion efficiency was there, what was happening? Maxi 67%. You want to have a look at what it was for, for the Camry. Which one? Fuel economy. No one? Fuel economy. Here we go. Is that right? Yeah, I think it was too. Here's the first mechanical snap, so at that point, combustion efficiency 89%. And then in the next frame, under full load, so you've got here, then 86%. So that's pretty good. This thing here is putting out, what would we say, 67 or something? That's under a heavy load, so the vehicle was under heavy load. Let's see what this thing does now with resume. Some combustion efficiency stuff. And see, even just idling, just hang on a second, even just idling here. This thing is a joke. It's an incredible thing. It seems to be here. All right, take it away. Well, the brakes are attached too. Yeah, that's another story. Still that you removed. Well, they're much better in gear than it was out of gear. So let's have a look at this. This is the gear, so it's up to the right air fuel ratio, which is encouraging. This is have a look at the gases there. And this time it's the only thing wrong with it is, I guess, really here from a pollution point of view, is that it had extremely high CO before it even started the test. So the pollution before it even started the test. But by putting it in gear and giving it a burn, the mapping appears to be correct. You had a high rise in NOx, and it was pretty excessive in the CO as well. But I suppose if that car had been riding correctly with the correct CO at this particular point here, he probably would have passed that test, because the test is an average over a period of time. Right. You don't just look at that one-off spike, the CO released over the duration of the test. And but this car didn't start the test with the correct CO levels. Let's see where he was before. Now there's the previous test. And you can see here that and his car is showing its injection pulse rate at over 100 hertz. I'm not sure what it is, but I can tell you that is wrong. I'll change this to 500. We'll see if that covers it. Yes, it's running at 205 hertz. My guess is that this particular car's got what's called double kick injectors. And double kick injectors don't have the same turn-off signature as injectors. It's not a common way of pulsing the injector. And so I have to have a look at it. If you may have noticed that it doesn't work on center points, because they have what's called asynchronous injectors, and they're double pulse injectors too. Yeah, fuel ratios. He's running a bit on the lean side. That was because he had another problem, that's exhaust.
What sort of car?
It's a Cressida. No. I'll have a look at that later on this afternoon. The point is, I'm trying to make is that he's a gentleman who, and John's not a young fellow, he's sort of, he's only just recently got into computers, and here he is, he's a guy that's getting a new machine, he's got a laptop with a machine, he's saving files, he's sending the email, and we're getting results and solving things. In this particular situation, we'll have a look at this car, and if it's a common thing or something we can do about it, we'll work out a way of solving that particular problem for him. But by solving for him, also alert you to the fact that there will be a potential problem with these particular cars if this reading is not true. And then also post on the website, so everybody interacting together means that people are all pulling in the same direction. And that wonderful word that says synergy, where the combined energy of everybody is helping everybody to come along and solve problems.
We put another Crusader on the physics.
It is exactly the same thing. So there's something funny about it. I never got a car to put it on. This was before we fixed the problem. The car had the ignition problem, which we know that part of it. I wasn't interested in that. We were interested in why his injection pulse rate was 205 hertz. Well, at this stage, I want to find out what it's on. So I will then scary. Where's today? Just, John, do you want to see James Brady lunch? Oh, there's two jobs. Yeah, how do you get through that? Okay, any other questions?
So maybe, any idea whether you can actually adapt for development some sort of test on what we've done?
Well, we have actually got a harness that will do it,
Right.
but it's a hardware upgrade. I don't believe they'll be around that much longer, so I just thought it was one bother. It was originally developed in '89 when we released the data scan. It was harness 1A. But I think we have to find it already. It's not really in the food. Without further ado.
Nah, that's all, Josh. I'll just turn this off.
Training the best done is no value whatsoever. What they want is experienced, qualified people that can actually fix cars. You work on New Holland, Isuzu, Volkswagen, Kia vehicles. That's the point. The point is that all this mumbo jumbo about Tech 2 and the Tech 2 can't go out to the independent trade organisation and all this, that and the other. They've missed the point entirely. The point is that there's only one tool that fixes cars, called a well-trained motor mechanic. There is no other tool that does the job. I've never seen any piece of equipment leap up off the bench and place itself on the car and give you the result. It doesn't tell you everything. It measures everything. You've got to sit down there and make the tests. I thought when I saw that, how amazing, because the guys that have been banging the drum, I think it started with the VM. I know the backyard guys fixing on the car. Camille's around the area. One of the backyard guys working on these. Well, gee, I've got to really say that a lot of our clientele does come from dealerships, and whether the dealers bring with themselves or the customers are just plain disappointed with the lack of problem solving that goes on there. At the end of the day, the people that fix the car are the people that care and understand how cars function. We had one dealer in Newcastle that bought us a car. It was a V6, late model V6, with a rough idle problem. And they replaced the computer and the windows and everything had been replaced. It was down compression on one side. Don't laugh. We just couldn't instantly go back. We started cracking over. You could hear it during the crank, and it had these guys completely bamboozled. 2 days, they say, right? Yeah, and this is unfortunately the way programs, We've got a real problem with computer programs at the moment. No one knows how to run a program. Yeah, with these engineers, they come out, we put in 2 engineers last week. And we were really lucky, we got a couple of good guys. The stuff that we saw, we had an interview. It was fucking set of points, or they have no idea. Wouldn't know how to adjust the mixture cover. Couldn't explain to you the function of the power valve or anything other than that. Well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? And what's going to happen very shortly is there's going to be a whole stack of technology coming out by very few people, and the general intrinsic population seems to be getting dumber. They do. The guys that are smart are having less children later, and the dumb ones are having more children sooner. And of course, the status quo is changing. And very shortly, when the technology breaks down, no one's going to know how to fix it. And it's going to be the same thing with the cars very shortly. It really is quite sad, but this is really interesting to see that some large Holland dealership who have been for so long, not in particular, but Holland in particular, been banging the drum how their specialised factory training solves all their problems, is now looking for an experienced qualified technician. Well, anyway, please give it to me. It's on the sad side. It's really quite funny, you want to look at the faces here, all of you I know, and all of you have attended courses before. Not very many faces come off the same people over and over again. And I go to your place the other day, you've got cars coming up the side. I go to Cherry Wobble's place, they can't move in there. I go to Ken's Lube Bay when I'm on the way out of your place at 3:30, the doors are closed, you know? And there'll be a select group of workshops that continually function in cars, and I think the rest of them just enjoy our phone because they just don't want to know about the technology. It looks like this is another workshop that's a prime candidate for that. Is that?
You can't get your car in here for 3 weeks.
Is that right?
Don't brush the engine and when tows your car there, you want to tow back into someone else.
One hell of a business. Pass it to the guys that don't work in the central coast.
They won't work on you earlier.
What? That's right. Look at all everybody else. You know, if you've got a 1990 model car, it's 9 years old, for God's sake. Field Commodore is what? 13 years old.
Oh, wheels are starting to come up some runs now. Make good money at wheels, I love them. Can't wait.
I'm surprised any car that vintage and yours still is standing up from where you live.
Yeah, no, they do.
He lives on the peninsula. You know where he lives?
The only ones that rust out are the ones that leave outside, boss.
Is that right?
Put them inside, they're fine, mate. It's all right.
He lives on the peninsula that goes out to Soldier's Point. So there's water, road, Paradise workshop, water.
Not quite as bad.
Visiting team of iron oxide, as you are watching, Graham Aiken would be far behind either. You have a lot of salt spray in your area, wouldn't you? Yeah, goodness gracious.
Want to go out?
All right, let us get on to this. We've done all our pieces, so we'll
Do you want to sit
get
down
back
here?
to
This is still. Holy shit.
Is there any more questions about the program for you, move on? Like saving and emailing and stuff, whether everything else is right today? No trouble? Good.
You know when it shuts down there like that?
Yep.
And it comes up
Purging, yes. You can turn it off here. It's in the system.
No.
We know
Just know how you can do some programs and version gas. It's like cancel.
Yeah,
If
yes.
you wait till it does that and then cancel go away.
Well, you shouldn't. The whole idea of the purge is to make sure that you get rid of any residual gases. In a true bar 97 machine, like a lot of you guys that are using the machine may not be getting the most accuracy out of it, because you're actually less than zero in the workshop. And that's no good. what you should have is a snorkel or something going out from the zero port outside. Because if it zeros and you've got a whole pool of hydrocarbons on the floor, that's what it says to zero. And so in the true American machines that are used in the bar 90, they have to have a high-low, they have to have a high span bottle, they have to have a low span bottle, and they have to have a bottle of clean air, like, so that the zero is true. Being in the country air. Because if the gases can't achieve true zero, then your readings are going to be out. So it certainly came us to the nth degree. Right, let's go. We'll get it going. Yes. So you can change that anywhere up to 90. It's also in the initialization file, so or the configuration file. So if you want to just sit down there and change that to those ones that you have the mini vectors don't require much zero that these do. But these ones here have a much higher flow rate. Well, you're supposed to watch this already indicated. But if you want to push back to 90, you can. 30 is right, 90 is right. Yeah. But you can force the zero before you do the test. Hang on, let's get in there. By simply hitting this one. And that will force the zero. So when you're watching the test there, you're watching the countdown, like this one says 90 minutes on this one. But this will override it. This has internal thing set at 30. It won't go past 30 without doing a zero. So that's the whole idea of it. So if you're worried about that, watch the colour of the bar graph, it'll change to yellow. First when it's in the eye, you know you're going to run out before the test is finished. Alright, we'll get out of here. Just show you that turn the surge off. Get down here. So what do we decide this was? What do we say this was? A 3.9 or a 4 litre? Looks like 4 litre. 4 litre. Pick a number. Okay, got petrol, that's it, finished. In case you haven't figured it out by now, each of the tests have got different messages. So what each of the tests is in order and they're structured so that the messages that appear up the top are relevant for that particular test. Like you are not going to get the check for exhaust leak test in the start test. You should have found that when you were in the idle test. In the start test, you don't know what you're going to get, so there's no messages apart from the emissions file. Okay, car driver, here's a mark. You can navigate up here, so we'll forget the first thing here because we missed it. Just wait for a second, Dave. Up to 200, and then turn on, and crank. Put it on. this is really quite interesting. This particular vehicle has got a reasonably vertical CO2 line. So I don't think there's anything really much wrong with the ignition system on this one here at all. But the car has overfueled so badly during starting that at this particular point here, oh, it's not 04 there, but there's lots and lots of raw fuel going on here, and even at this point here where it's really quite rich, you can see just how much oxygen is still left over to the core combustion. And this vehicle has obviously overfueled quite badly during cranking. When we go into the electronic side of this particular car, we'll go and have a look at the way that the Fords instigate the cold start procedure on here through the computer. So at this particular point in here, the thing sort of a message to the CO2 line is pretty vertical, so I wouldn't suspect any problems at all with the ignition system on this car. B, I have a lot of oxygen present during the startup, and although the car is relatively cold, that doesn't sit well with what I'm seeing down here at the landing. So if I were to have a look at combustion efficiency on this engine, I see the combustion efficiency there is extremely poor, 64%. There may be a few extenuating circumstances, so can you just, I'll start the machine up again. Can you just go get the probe and have a sniff inside the crankcase to start this thing? So that's the first thing I'll do. We have here, after starting, let's go back to where we started the engine. We've got it's interesting to note here with the ignition one, that can you see straight away, even though the machine has picked up an ignition this side here, the problem is characterised by the poor CO2. Whereas before, we didn't have the ignition this side. And we have a reasonably vertical once you establish the air-fuel ratio of 1, okay, it's not very rich, and we also know that the car is cold, or the engine is cold in this particular point in time. So, because we know the engine is cold, we expect it to be reasonably on the rich side. That's like the change on gel. But even so, the ignition system should cope with that. It doesn't need to have the world's richest mixture. You can see at the beginning here that we do have the ignition as fire. Why would that flag set? Why does that have to be an ignition as fire? What are they for? It's neither rich nor lean. It's within the window, it's green. All these are out of whack. The mixture is perfect. Yes, it is. But it's within an acceptable window. Whenever that is green, that mixture will support the sustained combustion quite easily. It's these ones here that are the indicator. In this particular point here, you can see you've got 22, nearly 22 and a bit thousand parts per million of hydrogen or fuel, hydrocarbons here. But it's interesting to note that as we start the car up at this point here, the ignition system was sufficient to produce so much CO2 that the rise was really vertical. And it didn't seem to be, when I was watching it, so actually we should have the RPM look up, because I only want to watch this for the time being. But I would have been watching the RPM at the stage to see if it was oscillating and carrying up and down. The other part of it was we had extreme high CO. Now that CO could be because the car overfueled during starting. It could be. Or it could be that the ignition system wasn't quite completely disjointed. My guess is, going this particular engine, that the device will actually overfuel during starting. That's why we want to do that. Do you want to go and get your bring it up to the door fix? We'll just straight back to it. Well, that's not fuel pressure, that's fuel iteration. And that makes an enormous amount of sense. We'll have a look at this. In fact, you haven't put a swirl point in there, there's no way in the world that this thing is going to run properly. When the fuel moves from a high pressure area to a low pressure area, it comes back as vapor. So 50% vapor and 50% fluid. And if that vapor gets into the... sorry? But they've probably run this car for ages and thought, oh, it's probably just a bad thing.
That's why they give it to it.
This one here is a design problem. Okay, fine. Well, that's it. Just have somebody go up here to verify the readings. Who wants to be a reading verifier? John. Yeah, fire up. Should the ball be steady here? Is it steady? Yeah. Steady? Where is it steady? Yeah, is it steady? Yes. Steady. Okay, so it's running rich, going in the opposite direction. picking up the fuel from the tank. It's part liquid and part vapor. Then what I got a look at this thing here. You can't see the bubble in the fuel. See what I have with this? What's happening? It's all happening right now. This is indicative of what happens to the V8 Commodore when the primary pump stalls.
Is that lock telling us what air?
Not air, it's vapor. Yeah. The machine is coming up and giving you the most likely prognosis is that it's misfiring due to the lack of fuel. Hang on, stop the car for a minute, Dave. Dave,
Stop the
just
car.
stop the car for a minute. For those of you, just wait a few seconds, we'll start it up again, and you'll see when he first starts it up, the flow will be strong and high, and then as the vapor gets into the system, it will it just get progressively worse and the car will carry on. So we'll wait till it get rid of some of the rubbish. Okay. Here we go. I should have worn the tank one, it's really good to demonstrate it. Okay, get it up. So how much have you got to flow now?
Just under 1.5.
And steady?
Just coming a little bit.
You should also notice trembling in the gauge up there. The gauge trembling?
Yeah.
There you go. That's the feature. Sit up. No. No, it's not planned. This is... But that's exactly... Just turn it off. That's how I would interface with this car. Block filter.
We've had a screen there, and you can take on the next top and do that, and they will release it.
Oh, yeah, it's really common. It's split outside, yeah, very common. Yeah, that's right. The first thing is that you've got to understand is why you win this way. I guess, from the customer's point of view, you don't get to see it. So this car drives in, and he says, I turn it on here for a little while. The engine seems to be alright, and all of a sudden it starts going on like this. Now, this probably would never happen in a customer's car because it's unlikely to 12 volt, which is disappeared. But I have seen it in a Volkswagen before today, where they've had, or people have done tank jobs on there, or people have not put fuel pumps back inside the straw pot where they're supposed to be, and all sorts of other weird paraphernalia. But who knows? You know? The simple fact of the matter is, the cars come in, we have no opinion about it. We don't even hook up the electronics at this stage. So all we're doing is getting our readings from the tailpipe. We get our readings from the tailpipe here, and we see conclusively that the vehicle is now starting to run lean, and because the machine shaking is happening, there's a lean in the spark plate set. Why is the lean in the spark plate set? Well, it's pretty easy. First of all, the oxygen between when a car is running normally is between 0 and 2%. Anything above that indicates something's not quite right. The second thing is that you have the presence of hydrocarbons in the emission system. In the exhaust system. That means the fuel's not being burnt. Then the next question is, why isn't the fuel being burnt? And the answer is, problem mechanical or electrical? Well, it's too hard to look at an electrical problem. But it's very easy to look at a mechanical problem. So you go in there and you have a look at the fuel pressure and flow, and you see there's an anomaly straight away in the fuel pressure and flow. For those of you who have been to our FSA course or to watch, who saw us fooling around with the tank at the trade show? No? Has ever seen us fooling around that fake fuel system we have? And we've introduced air or we've blocked off this, that, and the other. Well, this is a classic example of the swirl pipe not working. So what happens with the swirl pipe not working is that the fuel goes back into the tank. There's nothing there to take the vapour out of the fuel on the return line. The vapour gets then passed into the intake of the pump with vapour and fuel mixed together, and then gets passed on to the engine, and the engine gets a mixture of vapour and fuel, so it gets the incorrect amount of fuel, and of course it ends up being a leaky slide. This is a very common problem with the Automotive. What would happen normally is the pump would stall, primary pump would stall, the main pump would then try and draw the fuel across the stalled primary pump. Whenever you try and suction on the liquid, whenever you lower the pressure on the liquid, you decrease the boiling point. So therefore, the fuel goes to a vapor form. It's called cavitation. Does anyone understand the concept of cavitation? So more flow is required than being able to be brought in there. To do that, you must have a restriction on the intake side, or you're putting vapor into the pump. Now, I'm only guessing, so seeing John doesn't believe me. If you go up there and put your hand on the fuel pump now, he starts to cut up, I bet you just feel the pump when it's starting up, it's feeling like it's okay. And then as the vapor gets back again, you should be able to feel the vapor exploding inside the pump there. So, you ready to go? Start it up. Start the pump now. Now this, thanks, turn off now. Right? This is the new laying on hands approach to diagnostics. You might lay hands on the car.
Got us rewarded.
Just the way things are. It's simplistic, I know, but it's true. I don't know what's in the car. Has it got the right air fuel ratio? No. Check this, get a fuel system analyzer. Look at that. Fluctuation, bingo, problem. End of story. And that's a very obscure fault. You can throw a fault code or scan reader at that till it counts, and you will not find the fault. Which gives us another problem. Now, it makes that machine actually useless for any further testing.
Yeah.
After all that problem.
I bet it's hard to get it too. They just get it.
We need a fuel tank to stop on it.
Unless they fill that right up.
No, even if you fill that up, it's not going to be.
You look at the return line and see what tank further up, with the softener and the other. It's pretty light, but it's not.
Get a real plan.
not how you fix cars. There's always a reason why I'm doing something. If you want to know why you're doing something, just go up to here. Okay, and go into objectives. This is the really important one. Try to stay focused, guys. Sort of kind of talking here. Put your hand up and share the question. The question was, is there any way I can relate the delay in the exhaust gases to the electronics? And the answer is, you don't constantly rev the engine. You always have an objective for doing something. In the case of this test, these are the objectives. They're not there to assist you in revving the engine to do it. So you're trying to see if it passes that test. Does it start? If it does start, or if it doesn't start, it's probably caused by lack of fuel. So you that's all right. After you finish that, you move on to the next one. But if you don't stay focused in your diagnostics and have a very precise plan of attack, all you'll do is end up going around and around in circles and not solving the problem. So everyone says, how do you get to the end result so quickly? And the answer is just simply think your way through it. And to do that, you have to have a look at the requirements of the engine. The requirements will be satisfaction of fuel, satisfaction of ignition, and satisfaction of tank integrity. And with this one here, again, it's so easy. It had a fuel problem. It was misfiring. You have to get any electronics on it. It was misfiring, had a fuel problem. The easiest thing to check with a fuel problem is the fuel pressure on flow. Now I had not gone to lay my hands on that particular car, but I can tell John exactly what happens. There's no such thing as a noisy fuel pump. You've got a noisy fuel pump, you have a problem.
We had a deal last week just to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
And the old regulated the air problem that they knocked off. And the car ran, couldn't drive it properly, it was flooding, you think it was airflow or something. And it had 700 kPa pressure. And it flooded.
That's right.
The ball was on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you could hear the pump, it was stressing out. And this one was supposed to be out.
That's right.
Block pressure regulated, anyway, in other words. The pressure around the players.
That's really common. And actually it's common with Ford. We have one in Ford as well.
And then $300.
Much like this.
The
The main job of the pre-pump was that the high pressure pumps or any roller type pump is not so good at sucking. Pre-pump? No, it's not. The pump is running fine. What happens is that when the fluid moves from a high pressure to a low pressure area, it boils. That's the basic principle of air conditioning. If you have a look in a clear line with the fuel coming out from here, going back, what you will see is a mixture of, have you got something clear? Just go and make something. If you've got some clear fuel line, you can put that in place of that. Very soon. And when it comes from here, it's a mixture of vapor and fuel. The result is your engine swirl pots and move the vapor from the fuel, so when it gets pulled back in, and again, you have clean fuel.
So I think that's sort of petrol that wouldn't sort of affect it then if it wasn't going back to that tank.
No, it's a way off from another tank.
Another tank that's still drying up.
Well, we can prove the point there, but just have a look at this one here. I wonder who wants to volunteer their car for a donut tank?
Because I always believe that three pumps supplies main pump does, mainly because the pump is up fit, the main pump is up fuel up, so it's direct supply.
That's right. It's not under that condition. It's under the condition of where the vehicle. I should have brought this along today. One of the things about the swirl point is.
Rob, we could pull straight out of that tank and put it here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. All I want to do is have a look at the vapor coming back from the. So this is a drawing of the whole one, right, of the V8 Commodore. But here's the fuel tank. And the swirl pot sits here, it's quite high, it's about 6 inches high. The fuel level in the tank can get here. car will run perfectly okay. Because the return line and stuff comes into the bottom through a restrictor in here, and the swell pipe is full all the time. Here's the look. The pickup sits in here. So it doesn't matter as the car goes around the corner. And this pre-pump is there to compensate problems in low fuel conditions. When the fuel level is above here, it makes no difference at all. But as the fuel level gets down, because the tank is broad and wide, fuel level will fall right down below the side of the fuel pump and the swell pipe, and the vehicle can continue drawing fuel from this return line truck. If you have a look at it, it just looks like a fountain, just bubbling over all the time in the vehicle. We put one of these inside a glass tank, which we use to demonstrate the fuel system's analyzed. And the result of that is that the swell pipe remains full, and the pre-pump uses going to get it out of this section here. In forward in that car, they don't have the swell pipe like that. They do have one where it sits in here. Down here, the main pump sits like this. It's a bit of a towards the bottom of it, and then it goes out here. Then you can blow it like this tube here, so the flow the pump sits here. But with this style of swell pipe, they use the free pump. It's not common to use that anymore. Ford uses it in station making, but not. Have you got a hook up? Yeah. Okay, fire up. That's how it comes back to the. It doesn't come back as a fluid. And it's caught the engine doesn't misbehave. Yeah, but the second thing, this is what happens. So it comes out of here. I don't want to spend all that. This is very.
I always meant to believe that these pumps are not suction pumps, and the pre-pumps are there sort of.
No, they suck just fine. They haven't got the biggest suction possible, but they suck just fine in this situation here. There's no problem with it doing that. When you're asking that pump to sit down there for a few meters more opposed like that, it might be stretching your friendship. But the cause of the problem in this particular car is because of the fuel aeration you saw coming out here.
Yeah, so why that gauge got there now for? Yeah.
Well, it's probably out of petrol.
Did it?
Oh, look. Still some? But how far the pickup is down there? This is quite big. I feel it's got quite a lot of petrol in it. Well, I know. But again, the point is that we are looking at the vaporisation going down here. Well, if you want to go for it.
I sort of think that that's sort of, I don't understand that that's what it was answered by from the fuel.
No, it's not. We have demonstration tanks and use exactly that pump. But it's a V-oil thing, but we don't use the pre-pump, and it sucks just fine all the way through that.
That pipe from the fuel.
That pipe from the fuel. And even in the vehicle, a lot of times the pump is actually at the same level of fuel. So once the flows come over the pump, just even cycling out will feed it to it. It's quite often the time when the pump is actually lower than the fuel. So once it's cycling over it, you can constantly fill with fuel all the time. Pre-pump, I agree with you, is allowed to is there to assist that pump draw stuff in there. But who has seen a VL run with a pre-pump store?
Yeah.
Many times.
And the car,
It's still
does that Volvo, it's a different system, but it works on the same principle.
so that the pump, even though it's stalled, it's still got enough run to draw the fuel through a stalled pump.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
VK, yeah. Are they still around?
No.
Let's just forget about it.
What are you going to do? Four-cylinder Camry? Yeah. Four-cylinder?
He's got a
6 or 6.
I'll start on that first and we'll have a look at that one. Just hold it down in the door and away we go. Bring the cat in. Yeah.
You want to move this out of the way then?
Sure. I bet you anything you like those coachings you run that car for ages and wonder why it's been made like that. Not one of them mentioned.
I bet you didn't do what they didn't know.
See, the thing is, even during measuring, of course, the move around in different pieces here, it's very clear to see here that in the rich mix you have a high CO, in the lean mix you have a very low CO, and yet during start, when the mixture is perfect, we still have high CO. CO is not an indication of a rich or lean mixture, it's an indication of combustion. And it's identifying the core setting for combustion, what your job is. Not sit down there and try and pretend that's the air fuel ratio. You do that with the ammonia ratio. That'll do it. I'd just like to put that up the bum of the car truck. Pain in the ass. Oh! Look at this. Oh! New direct fire ignition system. This is the release for that. Start the release for that. That's this one. That's exciting. That's not too good. Strange. There's a really exciting new ignition system on this car. We'll have a look at that later. We might even do it bits. Just waiting for the guys to zero up again. Like I said, John, with this machine, you don't have the option of playing it with zero every 30 minutes anyway. So. These ones here, those ones there. Yeah. It's crushed. No, it doesn't happen on yours.
Well, there you go.
It only happens on the maxi bench. Well, yeah, I'll have a look at that later. You can't wait for that one. Yes. Well, no, it's clever. It's got a coil on the front plates, and it's got a button to lean coming on the back side, so it's going to give you No, it's timed out. No, past 30 minutes. You can't go past 30 minutes because the tune without having to do it. There you go. And just wait until the 30 minutes all the rubbish is coming out again. No,
Nothing else.
Has anyone got any ED truck, any big truck like that? Anyone got it?
Don't put your hand up, they're not.
Alright, let's have a look. Here we have something akin to the perfect car. Now this car is cold. It has some hydrocarbons here that is used in coal. And probably because the car is cold, it's not going to be over advanced or under advanced. That's right. The car will be over advanced when it's cold. Is it automatic? Can you just hop in there and hop in here? Make sure the handbrake is on pretty solid.
Oh,
Not good, I mean, yeah, so a little low there. Ooh, not good, not good. Well, the bumping's not up good, so it's not right with advanced timing. We'll see, we'll do that test again when it's warmed up. Okay, put it back to neutral, thanks.
Let it run, run along.
Yeah, let it run, thanks. Okay, here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
See the knobs change straight away? So it's not on low, and see the hydrocarbons going down, indicating up to that shift will probably due to timing change in the internal map. It's academic at this point. The thing is, the car here is performing correctly. Everything here is green. If we have a look at the combustion efficiency, we'll see that 97%, even though the car is cold, it's very high. And even that is considered not the best.
so that's all I do with customers.
Yes. That's the combustion efficiency screen. Getting back to here. Alright. So this car is behaving perfectly normal through the idle test. So actually I should even know the stuff. When all these turn green, there is no problem. And the air fuel ratio is right on the money. It's exactly what you expect out of a good car. Alright, can you just hop in that vehicle, thanks, and we'll just give it a snap acceleration. I'll just tell you when I'll change the screen here. We'll do it first out of the air, thanks. Now this is without any electronic diagnosis at all. Using the gas bench again, we will just see the vehicle pass the steps. Okay, grab the throttle. And on G-cell, so that's the snake type one. Remember we said that there was a snake one as well? And there's the snake one, so you will find that fuel shut-off occurred at that particular point. We're going to prove that later on, actually. Now, notice that he didn't get very rich. I suspect that the computer on this car knows it's not in gear. Can you put it in gear, thanks, and do the same thing? Make sure you put it firmly on the brake, put it in drive, thanks. Yeah. And it's exactly as I suspected, that he will do exactly what I... Yeah? See that? Total change. Now, I can tell you now, just looking at that there's absolutely nothing whatsoever on the back car. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. You can turn on the light, thanks.
Why is the blue mark on the air fuel ratio?
Because blue, the air fuel ratio has no intrinsic value to you. I can't tell if it's good or bad because it depends on the fuel. But we're not interested in that. All we want to know is what the landowner will do. We'll tell you whether it's white regardless of fuel. So it's the one that gets the colour. Blue means that it's just advising you what it is. That's what the fuel ratio is. Notice that the car starts at lambda equals 1. Isn't that a surprise? I wonder why. Because that's the way that all design run. All 4 cycle engines design run like that. Whether they achieve it or not is academic. For this one I knew would be pretty well close to perfect. And with the O2 advantage, this vehicle did not overfuel, and nor was there a great deal of raw unburnt fuel going out the back when we did the test. So I can tell you straight away now, without even looking at it, that all the devices that are used to measure the mass of the air in the engine have functioned correctly and instantly. If there was a hiccup or a TPS fault, this would go slightly lean here. The TPS wasn't set correctly. Where? Oh, that was way back there again. Yes, it did. Oh, what? I'll go back to the TPS wasn't set correctly. Now, why would it do that? Why, if the TPS, what would you say? Why would this occur here?
You open the throttle will allow the airing, but the injectors haven't reached up. The switch hasn't told them the throttle's open.
Bingo. It's exactly like if you had a worn linkage in the accelerator pump. You've opened the throttle, but the accelerator pump hasn't squared, and away you go. So even simply by watching this area of the line here will give you a pretty good clue as to where the problem area in the vehicle is. This is not uncommon in, well, in my Giro, there are a lot of problems with TPS in that particular car. Toyota is starting to have a lot of problems in TPS, especially the early SC21 Camrys where the shaft was moving and everything else in there. So we modified the TPS so it didn't, we put a bit of shim film in there and took the plane out of where the ball inside of the flaps between 2 plastic bits, and it ends up going like this. Yeah. Yeah, the surgeon going down the road. Well, if you're looking at this area here, you're looking at something that looks like this. It's gone slightly lean on the first part of afterlife enrichment. So the first part of afterlife enrichment is on lean. Go back to, it's really funny looking at the cross-mix of faces with some older guys that grew up with carburetors and some younger guys that sort of probably didn't do a lot of work with carburetors. I couldn't think of a single day in the workshop where you couldn't have a more stronger carburetor on a whole unit. I couldn't think of that, that wouldn't happen, you know. And I couldn't think of a day that when you pull the carburetor to bits that the little lever on the bottom would have a flopped outer oval, it's all worn out, you have to throw it away. Same deal, you know. Yeah. Well, surprise, surprise, that's a 4-cycle car and has exactly the same requirements as that red out hole. It's interesting to see that the NOx is so high here. But it's gratifying to see that they keep pushing the fuel up to that level. Any questions about that? Has anyone got an Australian car out there that they like to donate for? Right, someone more got a car there that I put on some shins.
You want to put the Commodore on?